Does the person you are with encourage you to read? You have to ask, what does he bring for me? Roses or books? If someone has a stake in making you better, that person will push you towards books. Books are what we all need. Mutasim. Pranam Acharya ji. Throughout the novel, I found the ideas of Ayn Rand contradicting what I have learned from you, as well as the general idea of non-dual philosophy I have gathered so far. Please help me see the concurrence, if any, between the following statements by Rand and your teachings. And then, then Musasim has quoted some 6 statements from Ayn Rand that he finds to be contradictory with what I say, what the Buddha says, with what the entire Advait philosophy says. So the first one, statement by Tuhi. My dear, you will never be more than, that's missing, more than a dilettante of intellect unless you submerge yourself in some cause greater than yourself. Then Mutasim says, Acharya, this is what you always say. Why is Rand against it? Mutasim, you are disappointing me. And then at other places you are saying, oh, what is evil about this? So easily confused. When your question came, somebody felt impressed and said, see, such a deep question by a 17-year-old. How can a 17-year-old think like this? Now I feel like saying, yes, how can a 17-year-old think like this? So Tuhi says, submerge yourself in some cause greater than yourself. That's what I have said, that's what all saints have said. But what is that cause greater than yourself? Is it to submerge yourself in the common mediocrity? Is that what the saints have been teaching you all along, Mutasim? And you have been in this since at least an year now. Is this what you have learned, that the saints are telling you to become part of the masses? What was Tuhi always saying? That a building should just correspond to the lowest common denominator. When he writes his sermons in stone, he says, it is architecture for all. He avoids all the depth, all the intense complications, and brings out just the general superficialities in his book, so that even the most dull mind can comprehend what he is saying. Now, is that what the saints have taught you? That leave your individuality and submerge yourself into the muck of commonness? It is almost offensive how you are seeing a contradiction, first of all. Tuhi is against all excellence. And the saints were themselves excellent. Tuhi is saying, go and belong to the masses just as they are. Don't try to do anything outstanding. And the saints were always rebelling against the masses. Is Buddha one of the masses? Or is he a clear rebellion against mass mentality? Yes? What is it, Mutasim? So easily misled. Then, at another point too, he tells Keating, you must stop wanting anything. You must forget how important Miss Catherine is. Now the context is that Keating loves Catherine. Keating loves Catherine. And too, he is telling Keating that he must forget the one he loves. And then Mutasim proposes, Acharya ji, but what Tuhi is saying is in accordance with Buddha's teachings. You will have to come and educate me, Mutasim. How is this in accordance with Buddha's teachings? And which version of Buddha's teachings are you exactly reading? How much of Buddha's teachings have you read to find this in contradiction of Buddha's teachings? You are not just 17. You are 17. A 17-year-old should have much better sense. See what Tuhi is doing. Catherine responds to the rare honest center of Peter. Do you get this? With Catherine, Keating is sometimes honest. She is the only one with whom he is sometimes honest. In fact, the other one is Roark. In front of Roark, Keating is forced to be honest. Sometimes. Similarly with Catherine, Keating does not need to have any pretense, any drama, any artificialities. When he is with Catherine, he is shown as being less conditioned, less artificial. That's the effect of Catherine upon Keating. Do you get this? In front of Catherine, Peter Keating does not feel the need to put up a facade, a front. He does not need to talk in assumed tones. If he is conditioned, he can reveal to her that he is conditioned. And she has a kind of unsuspecting trust in him. Sometimes he doesn't show up for weeks, sometimes he doesn't show up for months, and she does not even bother to inquire. That is the nature of the relationship. It may not be a relationship as high as the skies, but in context of Peter Keating, this relationship is the highest relationship that he has. Look at Keating's relationship with Franken. Look at Keating's relationship with Lucius Hare. Look at Keating's relationship with his mother. These are the other important relationships that he has. Look at Keating's relationship with the other workers, draftsmen in Franken's office. You remember all that he does with them, right? Stengel and all. You remember all that, right? So when it comes to Keating, his relationships are one rotten mass. Catherine is the only one in presence of whom Keating is a little less wicked, a little less demonic. No wonder Keating ends up betraying Catherine. Because had he remained with Catherine, Keating could not have become the beast that he slowly turns into. In fact, he is a de facto murderer, Peter Keating. Now what is Toohey doing? Toohey is ripping Keating away from the one right relationship that he has. Are you getting it? If there is one right relationship in Keating's life, it is his relationship with Catherine. And not that this relationship is absolutely right. It's just that it is the relatively highest relationship that he has compared to his other relationships. Toohey is striking at the best that Keating has. Catherine is the best that Keating has. Therefore, Keating's mother does not like Catherine. Don't you see that? Did the Buddha preach that you should have wrong relationships? In fact, one of the 8 limbs of the path suggested by Buddha is right relationships. You say, Mutasim, that is this not what the Buddha preaches? Go and read the Ashtanga Marg of Buddha. Of the 8 limbs, one limb is right relationships. And obviously, what is a right relationship? That which does not condition you further. That which returns you to your pure self. Is that not what a right relationship is? So the Buddha is preaching, have right relationships. And Toohey is breaking the right relationship that Keating has. And Mutasim is wondering whether the Buddha was actually Toohey. What are you doing, Mutasim? It's mathematically clear. Buddha says, have right relationships. Right relationship of Peter Keating is with Catherine. Toohey does not want that relationship. He wants to break that relationship. How is then Toohey similar to Buddha, Mutasim? What's going on? Teenagers will be teenagers, huh? Then you are saying Ayn Rand mocks Eastern philosophy in this book and in other works. No, Ayn Rand is not mocking Eastern philosophy. In many ways, Roark is an exemplar of a lot of things that Eastern philosophy says. Eastern philosophy talks about remaining uninfluenced, does it not? Remain uninfluenced. Eastern philosophy says, do not succumb to temptation, does it not? Does Roark succumb to temptation? Eastern philosophy says, do not be egoistic. Does Roark mind working in the quarry after being a promising architect? Does this speak of ego in the common usage or egolessness? Roark did have 4 commissions as an architect, did he not? And Roark did get an internship with Henry Cameron. In fact, he worked with Cameron for 3 years. Did he not? And the stalwarts in the in the field of architecture, did have at least hidden respect for Roark, right? Look at Keating, for example. In some sense, he worships Roark. Does he not? Further, the worth of Roark had been acknowledged by people like Austin Heller, right? So Roark did have some standing as an architect. It's not that he had been totally dumped into the mud by the world. The world did respect Roark to an extent. And then Roark says, I will go and work in the quarry at Connecticut. Is this mark of ego or egolessness? In India, can a good, qualified, capable engineer easily accept to work as a mechanic? Does it happen? You feel offended, your ego gets hurt. And Roark easily accepts that. This is what is called as nirahankarita. How is Rand mocking Eastern philosophy? Maybe, Mutasim, you should probe your subconscious. Often when we want somebody to be mocked, we come upon things that appear like mocking him. Maybe Eastern philosophy is advising you a path free of titillation, a path that demands some renunciation, and your teenage mind is feeling afraid of that path. So subconsciously your mind is searching for ways to escape from the East. Ayn Rand is not at all against the East. Maybe superficially at places she appears to be, but not at all. Does she not say that the mouth of Roark, that the face of Roark was either the face of a saint or an executioner? The face of a saint or an executioner? In her own words, she has compared Roark to a saint. And you are saying, oh, Ayn Rand is mocking the East. Roark is a deeply spiritual character. Why else do you think your Acharya ji would be so fond of him and introduce you to him? Are you getting it? Look at the 6 enemies that Sri Krishna advises you to be cautious of. The Shadaripu. Do you find any of them in Roark? Do you find any of them in Roark? So why didn't it occur to you, Mutasim, that Roark is actually a follower of Sri Krishna? But no, that kind of thought didn't come to you. But you have quoted instance upon instance saying that, rather alleging that Tuhi looks like saints and Roark contradicts the Buddha. What is going on? Ask yourself, why didn't you see similarity between Roark and the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita? Is Roark not exhibiting the highest kind of desireless action? What is Nishkam Karma? Action done without any apprehension or expectation of the result, right? Is that not what Roark is doing? He says, I will do what I will do. I do not fear the outcome. Is that not what Krishna is teaching Arjun? Do what is right and let what may come. Is that not what is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita? Yes, do what is right and never mind the results. What else is Roark continuously doing? Do what is right and never mind the results. And you are saying, no, but Rand appears like mocking Eastern philosophy. Watch out! These are ominous portents. Something within you might be itching to get rid of the East, Mutasim. And if something within you is determined to get rid of the East, sooner than later you will find some excuse to get rid of me and this course. When the teachings of the saints become too much for us, when the ego absolutely becomes adamant to somehow escape the saints, it will never say that in so many words. It will never say, oh, I have started hating what Ashtavakra says because what he says is too much for me to execute. So I am quitting Acharya ji, I am quitting MAG. The ego will find some other pretext, some other excuse. But the central reason is always one. You have hit a roadblock. It's a cul-de-sac. You do not want to proceed any further. So you will come up with some reason and get lost. These are not the right signs. Then you say, Tuhi says, you must tell people that they will achieve a superior kind of happiness by giving up everything that makes them happy. Then he says, he uses big and vague words like universal harmony, eternal spirit, divine purposes, nirvana. And then his question is, why does Ayn Rand think of nirvana to be unreal? This is further supported by Ayn Rand saying that she does not believe that anything beyond reason exists. Then she says man's mind, reason is his only means of perceiving reality. Isn't this blasphemous? Don't we regard the mind to be absolutely limited, incapable of the perception of God? Is Ayn Rand saying that the mind is the authority when it comes to the beyond? Ayn Rand is absolutely silent on the existence of God. She is not supporting the idea of God, nor is she contradicting it. Even if she is contradicting the idea of God, it is the common idea of God. And I repeat, every idea of God deserves to be contradicted. What else was the Buddha doing? What else are the Upanishads doing? What else is J. Krishnamurti doing? What else am I doing? Contradicting your ideas of God. Have I not said 1,000 times that God is not to be talked of? That's what Ayn Rand is doing, not talking of God. Then you say, why does Ayn Rand think that nirvana is unreal? Yes, the more you talk of nirvana, the more unreal it is. When Tuhi talks of spirituality, he is dragging you to a level that is even lower than the one that you are at. The saints say, give up your individuality and rise, because your individuality is contaminated with effects from the body and society. Do you get this? As we stand, what we call as our individuality, is it pure? When I say I want something, is it a pure expression of your individual self? Our individuality is contaminated. What contaminates it? The body and the society. They contaminate our sense of I. So the saints say, move into the purer I, an I that is not contaminated by the body and the society, and that I they have called as the true self, Atma, Brahm, the void, whatever. What is Tuhi doing? Tuhi is saying, right now your I consists of 60% of effect of the body, 30% of effect of society, and 10% of the call of the Atma. We all are occasionally honest, are we not? Like Peter Keating. So 10% times we do manage to be honest. Right? So Tuhi says, no, this won't do. This 10% is the problem. Tuhi says, leave your individuality. The saints also say, leave your individuality. But the saints say, your individuality is problematic because it is 90% corrupted. Tuhi says, your individuality is problematic because it has 10% of purity. And Mutasim is confused. He thinks the saints and the Tuhis are saying the same thing. Are you not getting it? That which we call as our individuality is 90% influence and 10% purity. Loosely speaking, right? Is that not so? 90% influenced and 10% original. The saints say your individuality is fake. Tuhi also say your individuality is fake. But when the saints say that your individuality is fake, what are they saying? Rise up and give up the 90%. The 10% must expand to become 100. You must be totally pure. That's what the saints are saying. Be totally free of the influence of society and the body. That's what the saints are saying. In contrast, what is Tuhi saying? Oh, 90% you are all right, but still occasionally 10% Peter, you sometimes have rare attacks of honesty. These attacks of honesty won't do. You have to become 100% conditioned, fall to the level of masses. Become totally socially conditioned. That's what Tuhi is saying. So the difference is obvious. Tuhi is sounding like saints only to the extent that he is saying that your individuality is false. Tuhi is sounding like saints only to the extent that he says that you must give up this individuality. But after that, there is a dimensional difference. The saints want you to rise. Tuhi wants you to fall. The saints say, don't be a victim to the body and society. Tuhi says, be a total slave to the society. How are you seeing a commonality between saints and Tuhi? I really wonder. I'll tell you why you are seeing that. Because your knowledge is the knowledge of tennis, of the crowds watching in the stadium. So recently there was the US Open. I watched the finals. Rafael Nadal versus Medvedev. It was an engaging final, 5-setter. Medvedev made a beautiful comeback after losing the first 2 sets. So there are the players in the middle, and there are just 2 players. And then there are the thousands that are just watching. And then on the court there are a few others. Who are they? The ball boys. The ones who are watching will never know what it means to strike the ball. Can you learn tennis by watching tennis games? Can you learn squash by watching squash games on YouTube? Is that possible? Is that possible? Or do you learn squash when you experience the hit of the ball against the racket? You learn squash when you know what it means to run to the front corner and back to the tee. By watching a game of squash, you will never know what it means to play a boast shot. The problem that you are facing, Mutasim, and most of my listeners and MAC participants are facing is, you are just watching from the stands. I am the player, I speak from my experience. The volunteers in the foundation are ball boys. They are present on the court, but they are not playing. But they help me in some sense. They bring the balls to me. When they bring the balls, I use the balls. They too are not playing, so they also do not know me completely. But they know me to some extent. As far as you and the YouTube audience is concerned, you will never know me. All you will have is words. Therefore, your conviction in respect of my teachings will always be very superficial. Any tuhi can shake you up. Any small bit of information can rattle you. Because you have just been watching from the stands. You really do not know what I mean when I say what I say. Only my heart knows what I mean when I say what I say. To know what the real meaning of my words is, you will have to come and play. That most of you dare not do. At most, you come and become ball boys. Even if you become ball boys, you will get some faint idea of what it means to be on the center court. Even that, most of you are not ready for. All you do is sit there up somewhere and clap. Do you know what it feels in the muscles when you hit that single-handed backhand? Do you know how it feels? You do not know. You only get to see what your eyes show you, a little bit, on the screen, on YouTube. You do not know what my interiors are like. Therefore, it is so easy to misinterpret me. On one hand, I am disappointed that you are having such basic confusions. On the other hand, I am grateful that you are honest enough to show these things to me. Because you are honest enough to show these things to me, it tells me of the futility of my work. It tells me that even if I keep barking my entire life, not many people are going to understand. You will never know what it means to serve at 100 miles an hour by sitting somewhere. You will never know. Which shot appears the easiest to you? The smash? Right? The ball has been lobbed up and you're sitting at the and you're standing pretty at the nets, and all you have to do is smash the ball. Right? The opponent has lobbed the ball up and all you have to do is smash it down. Try playing the smash and see how you'll be humiliated. You are mentioning the Buddha here. Are you sure, Mutasim, you have even read the Buddha properly? But look at the impetuous mind. Look at the gross insolence. You are so ready to drag the Buddha down to the level of Tuhi without even having taken the effort to go into what the Buddha says. And we are all sitting ready for that. We are just waiting for some hint and we'll declare Tuhi is Buddha or Acharya ji is Tuhi. If that's what you are determined to do that quick and get lost. Save me my time. Then you are saying, Ayn Rand says, man's mind and reason is the only means of perceiving reality. Go to the numerous videos where I have spoken against superstition. Mutasim, were you sleeping when I was talking? Have I not said that when it comes to the world, only science can tell you the fact? Have I not said? So when Ayn Rand says man's mind and reason is his only means of perceiving reality, obviously she is not talking of transcendental reality. She is talking of the worldly reality. But that's what I have also always kept saying. That do not bring in spirituality when it comes to understanding structural engineering. When it comes to understanding what the material world is like, only science will work. And what does science mean? Science means reason and logic. That's what Rand is also saying. Why are you so confounded and so suddenly? Have I not said that since several years? That do not make the mistake of trying to apply spirituality to things that are purely phenomenal. I think it was him who asked that day, Vivek, that does not the infinite expanse of the universe tell us about the infinity of Brahma? And I categorically told him that the universe might be tremendously huge, but it is still perceivable through the senses. And it is perceivable through the senses, therefore it is not in the same dimension as Brahma. Where are you so confused? Obviously, man's mind and reason and logic is his only faculty when it comes to appreciating the world. But merely by appreciating the world, man lives in a certain restlessness. And that's where he has to go beyond logic, he has to go beyond reason. And it's not as if Howard Roark himself is purely logical or purely reasonable. Answer this. When the dean asks Roark, when did you decide to be an architect? What does he answer? In the opening pages itself, in the first 20-30 pages, the dean asks Roark, when did you decide to be an architect? What's Roark's answer? He says, when I was 8 or 10 or 12, something like this. 10. And then the dean, correct me if I am misquoting, says why or how. Roark says, I don't know. Can Roark give a reason or logic why he wants to be an architect? Can Roark give a reason or logic? Even the hero's deepest urge is coming from a mystical place, is it not? You can reason out a lot of things, but can you reason out where your reason is coming from? Can Roark tell logically why he must be an architect? Even that is a mystical calling. You can't see that. Roark is most reasonable, most logical, he says, right? He says, if there is something in my buildings, it has to conform to the test of logic. It has to be there by way of its reasonability. It has to have a functional utility. Only then it will be present in my buildings. All that is wonderful. But tell me, Roark, why do you love architecture? How will you logically justify love? So Roark is mystical, and only as mystical as the right one must be. Mysticism must guide the things of the heart. When it comes to the world, you must be guided by reason and logic, the mind. Obviously, that's true. There is nothing mystical about sipping water. This throat here felt a little parched. You can have a quotient of parchness and a red line in that quotient. The moment the parchness exceeded that quotient, some signal was relayed, material signal, mind you, material signal. Some material signal was relayed to the brain, and the brain said water, 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 water. So the material hand went for the material tumbler and sipped some material water. Nothing mystical in this. There is nothing mystical in the ordinary phenomenal events of the day. But when it comes to the raison d'etre for life itself, when it comes to the fundamental questions of living, logic will be clueless. Reason will be answerless. Just as answerless as Roark is if you ask him, son, why do you love architecture? And later on, Roark, why do you love Dominic? He may try to give some smart or clever answer. He says, oh Dominic, I love you for my naked need. And I need you just as my lungs need the air. All that is all right. But still, Roark, please tell me, reasonably, logically, why do you love Dominic? And you cannot have a reason for such things, please. Why does the bulldog-faced workman Mike love Roark? Tell me. Why did Cameron prefer to go down fighting and not surrender to the likes of Wynand? Tell me. Is there any reason in these things? No. So 99% of what you do and what you live in is bound to be reasonable, logical. It must be reasonable and logical. But that little 1% that lies at the center of our being will and must remain untouched by reason and logic. It is beyond. And I'm not saying this for the first time here. We have said this 100 times before. How did you miss it, Mitasim? Then he says, Ayn Rand says, achievement of your happiness is the only moral purpose of your life. Then he says, she is a proponent of pursuing happiness. But isn't the final stage the freedom from the desire to be happy? Is she suggesting that we chase happiness perpetually? And then if we do that, how will we be free of chasing? Much of objectivism seems so alien to what knowledge I have collected about spirituality. Why does she not talk of beyond self? Because it is a disgrace to talk of the beyond self. Because no teacher would ever like to talk of the beyond self. Because it is the student's stupidity that makes the teacher bring the beyond to words. Otherwise, no teacher is so disrespectful to the beyond that he would want to narrate it in words. That is why teachers worth their name have only pointed at the beyond and have tried their best not to name it, word it, or paint pictures of it. Why do you want Rand to talk of the beyond self? So that you can relish the beyond self, Mutasim? Is the beyond a matter of talking? Can't you see beyondness in the life of Roark? Can't you see beyondness in the stubbornness of Dominique? And if you can't see beyondness there, only then will you say, I need Rand to explicitly talk of beyondness. The moment beyondness becomes explicit, beyondness becomes vulgar. Have you such a vulgar taste, kid? Did the Buddha ever talk of God? Did Mahavir talk of God ever? Huh? All the saints, without exception, have tried to point at something. And the pointers at beyond have been 1%, 5% of their literature. 95% of the time they are not pointing at the beyond, they are pointing at your worldly reality. Look at Kabir Sahib. What does he mostly sing of? The beyond or our tendencies and Maya? What does he mostly sing of? He sings of the way we are. And that is the bulk of spiritual literature. That which talks of our stupidities. And then, just as a consolation to the audience, a little bit is spoken of the beyond, just to keep you interested. Because if only neti-neti is talked of, then you will run away. Whenever the worldly reality will be mentioned, it is going to be harsh. Because worldly reality will include telling you how stupidly you are behaving in the world and how ephemeral and unreliable the world is. If only this is told to you, how would it taste to you? Tell me. There is the saint who is continuously telling you the world is not reliable. We are all conditioned. We are all coming from the jungle. How long can you stand such a teacher? So then a little bit of sweetening is done by talking of Amarpur. And the wonders of Amarpur are narrated. Nobody dies there. Time stops there. Infinite joy is there. Ideally, even that much should not have been spoken of the beyond. But the students, what to do of them? They need some entertainment. They need something to pin their hopes upon. They say, Guru Sahib, you are taking away our hopes from this world. Give us something in return. Otherwise, how can we leave our stupidities? If you want us to drop our stupidities, give us some alternative, please. So then the alternative is given. The alternative is Satnam or Ram. But that alternative is given just because we are not courageous enough to drop the worthless and stand firm in a vacuum without any base. We need some consolation, some alternative. Has the consolation become so important, Mutasim, that now you are saying Ayn Rand is not talking of the beyond? That means the beyond does not exist. Finally, I say, No saint worth his salt wants to talk of the beyond. Living in beyondness is one thing. Talking of beyondness is anyway sacrilege. Getting it? Then happiness. Ayn Rand says, achievement of your happiness is the only moral purpose of your life. And you are saying, this appears contradictory to what the saints say. The saints say, don't chase happiness. Ayn Rand says, chase happiness. Why should there be a confusion? Ayn Rand is saying, achieve your happiness. When she says achieve your happiness, what she means is your purely individual happiness. And what kind of happiness do the commons run after? They run after a collective, conditioned, social, physical happiness. Pure happiness is joy. Pure happiness is unending. Pure happiness is non-dualistic. So when Ayn Rand says your happiness, focus on the your. Isn't that the basics? Focus on the I. When somebody says I, you must be very careful what he means by the I. I can have several meanings. I can mean the pure self, I can mean the corrupted self, and I can mean the purely corrupted self. You are confusing. You are conflating everything. When Ayn Rand says, I must have its happiness, she means the pure I. When the common man says, let me have my happiness, he means the conditioned, corrupted I. Pure happiness, like everything pure, is non-dual. Getting it? How do you know that the pure happiness that Ayn Rand is talking of is non-dual? Because only the non-dual can be independent of the other. Doesn't Roark exemplify a happiness that does not depend on the other? So that is non-dual happiness. At places, you must find as if Ayn Rand is teaching you the principles of Advaita. And that's what she is doing. But her language is different. It seems we are stuck up with the language. So it seems that I'm meeting my purpose in keeping the Fountainhead as the reading. The rats are all being smoked out of their holes. I could have very easily kept another classical spiritual text as the reading for this month, but that wouldn't have smoked out the rats. When I say rat, I don't mean Mutasim, don't get offended. I mean the rat inside the Mutasim. The Fountainhead is my way of bringing the hidden ones out.